So this recruiting class we have mentioned as being one of the best in the country. What is your confidence level in Marcus Freeman being able to retain that class?
Well, the defensive class is going to stay intact. I mean, of the kids that have already stayed, Devin Moore decommitted the day that Brian Kelly left, but he had an in-home visit with Florida before the news leaked that Brian Kelly was even on LSU's radar. So I think that was kind of already in the works. The defensive staff, I'm told from talking to several sources, it's going to stay intact. The defensive class. The offensive class, CJ Williams was sort of on the fence even before Brian Kelly left. They've got to work to keep him in the class. I'm not overly concerned about anybody else in the class other than people that were already on the fence. Amorian Walker looking at Michigan, CJ Williams looking at UCLA and USC. But those things were issues before Brian Kelly left. So other than that, I think they're going to keep this class intact. The 2023 class, I believe, because you kept Mike Elston and Marcus Freeman, I mean, the 2023 class is built around your 2 5-star defensive ends and an elite 5-star linebacker. You lose Mike Elston or Marcus Freeman, those guys are gone. So I think keeping those two is going to allow them to keep the 2023 class intact and together as well. Now, the next question is, can you finish strong? That's going to be the thing we're going to have to find out because they've only got 13 days to do it.
Where do you stand in taking off your blue and gold in regards to this recent thought and conversation concerning the college football playoff in Notre Dame without a head coach of sorts? Although now Marcus Freeman's in place, he just has to basically change the plaque on his desk, and he's good to go. So I'll just open it up to the overall conversation of Notre Dame's playoff chances, how they've been treated and viewed by the playoff committee to date, based on your estimation, and what dominoes need to fall besides the obvious this weekend.
Well, Gary Bard has said that Notre Dame not having a head coach did not impact last week's ranking. That was based off Notre Dame winning, other teams winning, Ohio State losing, and Wisconsin losing, because that hurt Notre Dame's, big win, so to speak. That it would potentially affect next week's ranking, the one that comes out on Sunday. Well, I think now that Notre Dame has this coach in place and the entire staff is staying, because if it was just Marcus Freeman, but then 8 of the coaches are leaving, that's not a real stable situation. They're going to have coaches interviewing for other jobs, looking around. I don't know if that's a team I would have wanted in the playoff. I think the fact that so much of the staff is staying intact is going to allow the committee to say, if at the end of the day Notre Dame is one of the 4 best teams, that's not going to be an issue. And if anything, and he did say this was interesting. He said, we've seen situations where like a quarterback goes down and the backup comes in and it provides a new sense of energy, or a backup running back comes in and they play even better. Saying like some people may look at it that way. And there's an energy around Notre Dame right now. Having said all that, that's not a resume builder. That's what just protects you from being dropped for something not having to do with your resume. When you look at Notre Dame's resume, they're 11-1. That's great. They've beaten all the teams they're playing. They're playing as good as anybody in the country, not named Georgia right now, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, you look at it and say, if the roles were reversed and Notre Dame had 2 wins over top 15 teams like Oklahoma and Baylor and was about to have another one and go 12-1, and Oklahoma State was 11-1 with no wins over top 25 teams, Notre Dame fans would be losing their mind if they weren't ranked ahead of Oklahoma State, right? So if we're being fair, I'm fine with where Notre Dame is right now. The schedule ended up being softer than they thought it was going to be. Not a whole lot softer than what I thought it was going to be, because I didn't think North Carolina was going to be as good, but I didn't think they're going to be 6-6 not as good. You know what I mean? I didn't think Wisconsin was going to be that good. They didn't surprise me a whole lot. I thought it was strange that they went from 15 to unranked because of one game. That was a little strange to me, especially after I've watched Texas A&M lose 2 of their last 3 games and still stay in the top 25. And their one game they didn't lose is Prairie View A&M. That was a little confusing, but we understand why that happens. But I think Notre Dame is where they should be based on their resume. I also feel that if Georgia beats Alabama and Baylor beats Oklahoma State, Notre Dame should be in the playoff. I think they're one of the 4 best teams. I don't think they have one of the 4 best resumes right now.